Even if war covers the world, even if all Forsenna burns to ash, I will fight on like a demon. I will rule it all.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Dollar Games, and today I want to talk about Brigandine Abyss, the newest entry in the series that I've always known about since the PS1 era, but never actually sat down and played. So yes, this is my first Brigandine game, but before we get into it, I want to give a huge thank you to NAS America for sending me an early review code so I can get my thoughts together and share them with all of you. I also want to thank them for sending over a special edition physical copy for unboxing. Stick around to the end of the video to see what's inside. So, back in the PS1 era, little Dala would walk around his local game shop, checking out all the games on the shelves, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't judge the games by their covers back then. So, of course, games like Bust a Move 2, Lone Soldier, and Mobile Light Force were the ones that caught my eye the most. Nah, I'm just kidding. The cover art in those games were rough.
If you think that's ugly, it's a good thing you can't read my thoughts.
With Brigandine though, I was always drawn to the cool 90s cover art aesthetic, but for some reason I never picked it up. I'm a little disappointed with myself for not playing it because just look at the amazing voice acting.
Father? Father, no! No! I will avenge my father!
90s dubbing had a vibe.
That's quality.
On that note, let's get into the review of Brigandine Abyss. Brigandine Abyss is the third or fourth game in the series, depending on whether you want to count the upgraded version of the first game that was a Japanese only release. But if you're interested, there is an English mod for it, so go check it out. And for me, like I said earlier, Abyss is actually my first game I've experienced in the series, so I went into it with zero expectations. And story-wise, Brigandine Abyss takes a fresh approach without relying on you having played any of the previous games. As someone new to the series, I'm very happy I didn't have to get up to speed before jumping in like other series. The main setup revolves around the continent of Melty, a land shaped by old wars, political tension, and the lingering threat of the Abyssloa Empire. Wait a minute, Brigandine Abyss and Abyssloa Empire. Holy. That was a big brain move right there. Anyways, hundreds of years ago before the events of the game, the Abyssloa Empire was stopped by the power of the arcane Brigandine, a legendary armor created by the sorceress Lunadea. Of course, because evil empires in fantasy games can't stop or won't stop, Abyssloa eventually begins to rise again.
Can't stop, won't stop, huh?
And that's where the larger conflict begins. What I like about the story in this game is that it doesn't only frame things around one chosen hero. Instead, the game is built around 6 campaigns that let you experience the conflict from different sides. Each faction has its own goals, leaders, problems, and reasons for fighting, which makes the world feel bigger than the simple good versus evil setup. But don't worry, you still want to take on the Empire at the end. You just have to fight your way through the other factions to do so. And that fits into the gray area of good versus evil since the factions are reacting to an all-out war. Now, speaking of factions, you know I had to go with the most Japanese faction for obvious weeb reasons.
I'm sure I'll hear all about it in one of our little weep sessions.
But after beating the game with 2 out of the 6 factions, I was left more or less happy with the story. It's not the deepest plot, but it keeps you interested as you make your way through the campaign. You definitely face some twists and betrayals along the way, but they don't feel as intense as something you would see in a game like Final Fantasy Tactics. And you know what? That's fine for what the game is trying to do. The story gives you enough context to care about the factions, the war, and the decisions you're making while still letting the gameplay be the real meat and potatoes of the experience.
Potatoes!
For me, Brigandine Abyss works best when the story supports the strategy, and that's exactly what it does here. With the story out of the way, let's talk about the presentation of the game. Now keep in mind, this is not a big budget game, but I think it has a strong anime fantasy look that works for this type of experience. The character portraits and designs are a highlight for me. Every major character has a distinct look, and before you spend too much time with them, you usually get a sense of their personality just from the design alone. After doing some research on the previous game though, The Legend of Runersia, I have to admit the art is not as strong as it has been in previous entries. I still like the art in Abyss, but I can see longtime fans wishing they stuck closer to that older style. Also, the animation in the cutscenes shows the game's budget just a tad bit. The character animation can feel stiff, like an old Flash animation from the Newgrounds days, but part of me enjoyed that because it gave me this nostalgic feeling.
Ah yes, pizza. The one pizza to rule them all.
Now in battle, I think the game looks good. The maps are well made, the units are easy to follow, and I appreciate the camera zoom-ins when the attacks happen. It reminds me of Fire Emblem because it gives battles more visual impact without slowing everything down. Though, I wish important characters had more distinct models on the battlefield. Sometimes certain units blend together, especially when there's a lot happening on screen. Also, the UI deserves a mention because for a game with this many systems, it does a solid job keeping things readable. You can check movement ranges, attack options, unit details, and battlefield information without feeling lost. There's still a learning curve, but I was able to pick it up quickly and have fun. Now from an audio perspective, I never got bored with the music, so no complaints on my part. It fits that fantasy strategy vibe, and I think most people will enjoy it. As for the voice acting, if you enjoy watching your anime subbed, you'll be happy here. But if you prefer English dubs, then you're out of luck. This voice work is solid, but this is a Japanese voice acting only situation. Now overall, Brigandine Abyss may not be the flashiest strategy RPG out there, but the presentation does enough to keep the experience engaging. Like I said earlier, the gameplay is the true meat and potatoes of the game.
Meat or potatoes.
Everything I've brought up in this review so far is really there to support what makes this game so addicting, and that is the gameplay loop. I cannot stress enough how hooked I got. I would find myself at my computer playing, and then when I wanted to relax on the couch, I'd just throw it on my Steam Deck and keep working on my strategy and team structures. So if you're someone who enjoys micromanaging armies, building out teams, and strategizing how to take over a continent while gaining incredible characters along the way, this might be your game. The game is broken into seasons, and each season has you managing your army, preparing your bases, deciding where to attack, and then watching those decisions play out across the map. Now the big change here is that your goal is not simply to conquer the entire continent as fast as possible. Each story campaign has a 30-season limit, and the game pushes you towards getting stronger so you can survive the required event battles tied to the faction story. It gives the game more structure and makes each campaign feel more like an original experience. You're still conquering territory and fighting other factions, but you're also building towards specific story moments instead of just painting the whole map your color and calling it a day. The organization phase is where I spent a ton of my time. This is where you manage squads, move knights between bases, recruit monsters, buy equipment, develop bases, and send units out on a quest. Yes, there is a lot to do. Now, base development is a really nice addition because you can invest resources into different locations to gain bonuses, extra resources, or buffs for certain monster types. Also, quests are handled better here because you can hire mercenaries to take care of them. That means you don't always have to send your important leaders away and leave your bases exposed, which is huge when you're trying to defend multiple fronts. Once you get into the battles, the core of Brigandine is still here. You're moving units across a hex grid, using skills, managing your elemental strengths and weaknesses, and trying to take down the enemy leaders. Defeating a leader removes their entire squad, so targeting them becomes a huge part of the strategy. There's also a new rally mechanic, which is a great addition. You can temporarily remove a monster from the battlefield to give the squad leader a stat boost or special effect. That sounds kind of risky, but it can be incredibly useful useful when the map gets crowded and certain units can't reach the enemy anyways. Height differences, choke points, healing, magic, frontline control, and unit placement are very important here. This is absolutely a game that rewards patience and planning. Sometimes it's smarter to let the enemy come to you instead of charging in and immediately regretting everything.
I immediately regret this decision.
And that's where the game really clicked with me. The battles are a lot of fun, but I found myself even more addicted to all the prep work leading up to them. Building teams and planning attacks and setting myself up for the next season became the real hook. It's definitely the kind of system that makes me want to come back and start a new run with a different faction. Alright, so before we wrap up, let's take a look at the Brigandine Abyss Limited Edition. Again, huge thanks to NIS America for sending this over. As someone who just played his first Brigandine game, this is a pretty cool way to jump into the series. I totally meant to do that. Let's first look at the box. Right over here, we got some incredible, whoa. Let's get some focus on this box. That was a misstep. Anyways, front side, we have this beautiful looking art. And on the back, we have some more beautiful art. And I like there's two different types on here. I've seen before, they would do the same art on both sides, and that'd be a little bit boring. But with this one, we got two different key arts. Good job, NS America. I had to open the box off camera because I sucked at it. Don't judge me for my box opening skills because you know what? Actually, just you can judge me. That's fine. Anyways, let's take a look what's inside here. First things first is the deluxe edition of the game. Now, with the deluxe edition, you get the digital soundtrack and the mini art book, which is also digital, in here, which I'm sure we're also going to get the physical versions in the box, but we'll get to that. Don't worry. I told you not to worry because here, the next thing in the box is the art book. We got an art from the Abyss book, which is really nice, but I don't know. There might be some spoilers in here, so I'm not going to show anything, but I'll give you kind of an idea of what you're going to see. So here's one of the main characters from the factions, Largo, and look at that. You get a really cool look at him and this kind of sketches and the designs that came before that. Remember when I told you not to worry? Well, look at what we get here. We get the original soundtrack, a 3-disc set with each disc being around 18 to 20 some tracks. That is incredible. I don't think I've ever received a full soundtrack in a limited edition. So props to NS America for setting this up and giving us the full soundtrack. Now please do it for all the other limited editions, please, especially Trails. Anyways, let's move on. Look what else we get. We get a full cloth map. That's pretty cool, especially since it shows us the land we're about to destroy with a giant war. Oh well, it's pretty cool still. Who's ready to represent their faction? Because in this box, you also get pins for the crest of each of the factions, so you can represent whoever you want. Awesome. Last but certainly not least is some acrylic standees. You can't go wrong with these. Look, you've got all of the leaders of the factions plus the big bad guy. But wait, I want to show it to you when it's done. So let's wait, go to the future, and they'll be all ready in just about. Aren't they beautiful? Look at that. Oh, you see that right there? That's perfect. And then you can also remove the bottom base pieces from the base, so if you want to put them in different areas and not have them stacked like this. But I kind of like them in this kind of row mentality. I might actually move the big tall ones to the back because they're taking up too much room. But look at that. Some nice acrylic standees. What do you think? So overall, Brigandine Abyss was a really pleasant surprise for me, as someone who has known about the series since the PS1 era, but never really took the time to play it. I walked away from this game kind of annoyed at myself for waiting this long, because while Abyss is not perfect, it absolutely understands what makes this style of strategy RPG so satisfying. The story gives you enough reason to care about the world and the factions, and the presentation does enough to keep things engaging, and the gameplay loop is where the game really shines. Managing armies, developing bases, recruiting monsters, planning invasions, and then watching all of that preparation play out out in a battle is incredibly addicting. And the best part is, I still have more factions to go through, so even after finishing 2 campaigns, I can already see myself coming back to try another route, experiment with some new team setups, and probably make a complete different set of terrible decisions, which is growth, technically. So yeah, I'm a big boy now.
You wake up in the morning, you say, I put on my big boy pants. Look, I'm wearing a belt. I got big boy pants on.
But if you're looking for a flashy, big budget tactics RPG with massive cinematic moments, this probably isn't going to be that. But if you enjoy strategy games that reward planning, team building, and long-term decision making, Brigandine Abyss is absolutely worth checking out. For me, this was a great first experience with the series, and now I'm very interested in going back and checking out the older games too. Before we wrap up, I want to give another huge thank you to NAS America for sending over the review code and a special edition physical copy. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and catch me for my next review or video. And with that, catch you on the next one, everybody. Take care.